So, imagine if we could live in a world without fear of HIV, where you could walk into a testing center, get in the chair, get a diagnosis, and no matter what the outcome of that diagnosis would be, positive or negative, you could just stand up and say, what do we do next? Sure, it sounds impossible, and a lot of you probably might even think I'm downplaying the disease, but think about it for a moment. And while you're thinking about it, think about how we design our response to this disease. And maybe, think about the way fear stops us from changing our misconceptions about this disease. So let me introduce myself. My name is Mark. I'm a pretty normal guy. I came from a pretty okay family. My mom works for the WHO, and you'd probably find that ironic. But trust me on this, it leads to somewhere. In any case, I went to a private university, and now I work for a tech company where I design things day to day. Now, on this very day, 2 years ago, November 28th, I went into the office after an excruciating night of going back and forth into the emergency room. I spoke with my boss, and we laughed about it because my doctor asked me if I ever had an HIV test, and she was asking me to get an HIV test. Now, I did not know who, what, when, how to get an HIV test at all. I know about the disease because my mom works for the WHO, but I did not know where to start. So I did what any self-respecting millennial would do. I went online. Now, sad to say, I was pretty disappointed, not because I did not find anything or that I knew that we weren't doing anything. It was because of the way we were communicating things. Now, most of the stuff that I found were hidden behind pictures of like half-naked men and women. So imagine me, I'm in the office, right? I was 24 then, and the median age for HIV diagnoses right now are between 24 to 28. So you're most likely in the office when you research this. And you're researching those websites, right? You're viewing those websites, and there's a huge half-naked picture of a man, which is slightly NSFW. But, okay, let me go back. These NGOs are doing great things, mind you. So it's either I get my information from NGOs, not government websites, or I get it from blogs from people who live with HIV themselves, mixed in with all the drama and all their hardships. So it's truth be told, I was not very confident about getting an HIV test then and there. Any case, I was able to find a guy who accompanied me to a testing center, which he helped co-found. He was able to meet me that same day. They sat me down, they pricked my finger, and oh God, here I'm saying it. Yeah, in 30 minutes, I knew I was HIV positive. Now, disclaimer. My story is very different from the 19,000 other Filipino PLHIVs out there. For one, I hate admitting this, but I'm pretty rich. And my mom works for the WHO, I was pretty well informed. But still, shit happens, right? Now, yeah, but just to show you how different I was, because I was well informed, the first thing that I ever said after getting my news was, what do we do next? Imagine if it was that easy, right? What do we do next? And truth be told, what you do next, you fill up papers, they tell you when to go back to the clinic, and they just give you this set of steps that you need to do. Now, for me, okay, I just want to reiterate how different my story is. This is not a malaala mo kaya story. I have no drama when it comes to this. In fact, this is filled with self-deprecatory statements. So after getting up from that chair and getting off from that testing center, I went back to the office, walked all the way from Shaw to Ortigas to Metro Walk to Meralco Ave. Got myself a Jamba Juice along the way because, yeah, need to cheer myself up. Then I sat down, and my best friend in the office said, how did it go? And I told him, well, yeah, I'm officially HIV positive. And he was like, you can be on rent. Sick joke. And my only reply to him was, I flipped him a finger and told him, I'm sorry, I have never even watched Rent. And the next day, he slapped me with a copy of the DVD of Rent, and the only thing I could tell him was, why did Angel have to die? In any case, so if you think the scariest part ever is to get a diagnosis that you're HIV positive, for any HIV positive individual, it doesn't end there. After that, you have to get a CD4 test. A CD4 count measures how healthy your immune system is. For normal people, you normally have a CD4 count of above 500. Now, so I walk into the office all swaggered up, thinking like, no, I'm okay with this. It's already been a week, like, whatever. And my doctor said, she's a woman who sometimes masquerades as a man on Grindr. She said, oh, are you ready for your CD4 test? I said, yeah, I'm fine. Total swagger on. And she goes, totally stoic, opens up the envelope and says, so according to this, your CD4 is 10. And I was like, I'm sorry, did you say 110? Yeah, umaasa. But then, she just goes stoically, no, it's 10. So to show you the gravity of what this means, when your CD4 drops to below 200, you are reclassified as having acquired immune deficiency disease. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, oh my God, he doesn't just have HIV. He has AIDS. He is probably gonna die. He has a timer on his life, right? Let me reiterate the definition. AIDS in this day and century means you either have a CD4 count of below 200 or you have an AIDS-defining condition, which could either be tuberculosis, Kaposi sarcoma, or what I had, which is oral thrush. Having a CD4 of lower than 200 just means you're more susceptible to diseases. For me, it was oral thrush, and for anyone who knows what milk tongue is, basically you don't get that unless you're a baby. So that's how weak my immune system was. But still, I was not bedridden, I was not in a wheelchair, I was walking day to day to work, taking the MRT. So the myth of like the AIDS patient waiting to die in a bed is not so true. At least not for everyone. Especially in this country, a lot of people get diagnosed when they're already below 200. Maybe it's 194, maybe it's 196, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 10. In fact, the clinic that I go to, their lowest was 2. So, but here I am 2 years later, right? Anyways, so yeah, I have AIDS. And let me specifically say something about that term AIDS. A lot of people actually are fighting against using this term anymore because it's a medical term. We don't use it in day-to-day language because it confuses people. In fact, having an AIDS diagnosis does not change anything. There's no such thing as it's never too late. It does not change what we have to do. It probably changes how fast we have to do things. So by definition of my AIDS diagnosis, I had to go on treatment right away. So I'm gonna go for another misconception we have. So HIV treatment, right? People are probably gonna think, oh my God, he needs all the support we need. It's probably tough. They go through all these problems with their mind, whatever, ever. Okay. First of all, people think about the financial issues about this. And people are scared about me saying this, mostly because they think if I tell them that this is the case, people would want and would be careless and would actually want to get HIV. Can I have a show of hands? Who actually wants to get HIV? Okay, it's just like saying like giving people condoms makes them easier to have sex, right? Have not had a date. So anyways, so okay, in that case, so HIV treatment and nowadays as well, most people think like, oh my God, you're probably taking a handful of pills, right? Like 12, 6, whatever pills. But in reality, HIV treatment for a lot of us, it's this one, okay, it's one giant pill, one giant orange pill. It's hard to swallow, but still, you have to swallow it. And you're done. You take it every day, and truth be told, it has side effects, but it works. That's one misconception. Again, treatment works, okay? But yeah, it does have its side effects, and people complain about the side effects, and oh my God, yeah, you might have AIDS, and you're probably going to be battling side effects all your life. And this was true in the 90s, because back then we only had AZT. AZT being the first AIDS medication made famous by Rent. And yeah, it did very bad things. It made you nauseous, it hurt your liver. But today there are more than 20 HIV medications. Most of them are less toxic than the ones before them. In my case, so I have one combination pill, which is a combination of 3 meds. My only side effect was And this is a trippy side effect. The first night I was on meds, I basically killed Sadako 5 times while acting in a play about the Ku Klux Klan, which had me launch a space station to orbit. Total trip, right? Yeah. And by the way, I'm also immune to marijuana because of these meds already. So yeah. But that's it. Now, let's talk about treatment. Now, I told you guys about CD4, right? And when you're hit with like a low CD4 count about HIV, a lot of people think you're gonna stay that way forever. And your treatment only stops the symptoms, right? That it doesn't actually treat the disease. Truth be told, yes, in a medical sense, it stops the symptoms, and it does not treat the disease, or at least stop the disease. What HIV treatment does, or antiretroviral treatment does, is it stops the virus from replicating. Now, I'm going to explain HIV in a minute. HIV replicates at an extremely fast pace. That means that a lot of the copies of HIV end up being incomplete. So if you stop the virus from replicating, at a certain point, those incomplete viruses will die off, and this will lower your viral load until you become what you call undetectable. Undetectable basically means we aren't dangerous. That's another misconception. And this goes along with the whole idea of we are clean. I hate that term, clean, like I took a bath this morning. Okay. But yeah, we aren't dangerous. If we get everyone undetectable, nobody can actually ever transmit the disease. In fact, a recent study in July showed a population of mixed status couples where sometimes they would have unprotected sex, and I am not advocating unprotected sex, please use a condom, but still, shit happens. But yeah, no transmissions there. So that is what we call treatment as prevention. Now, let me reiterate the fact that, again, another misconception, we aren't helpless. With treatment, we can live vastly normal lives. A lot of people think, oh my God, you have HIV, you're gonna die, you're gonna live your life the rest in bed. Well, if it says anything, in 2 years, I've tomb raided Angkor Wat alone, I've spent a night in Hong Kong stranded alone, I've gone to Halong Bay alone, and I've learned 2 languages while still having a desk job day to day. I don't think I'm helpless at all. In any case, so let me reiterate the fact that my story is very different from everyone else's. But what my story says is, what if everyone was this way, right? If everyone was well informed, that they could pick up from getting a positive diagnosis and just go with it, get into treatment. If we get every single HIV positive individual tested into treatment and stay on treatment and into undetectable levels, maybe, just maybe, we could start seeing the epidemic plateauing. Because truth be told, right now, our rates are the same as in 1984 of the US. That's when the Normal Heart was written. And it took Ronald Reagan to mention the word AIDS till finally people started worrying about it. But the thing is, not a single politician is talking about it. And people are actually still afraid to talk about it. It's still hush-hush. Why? Because they fear it. And people fear it, and they're not getting tested. People are slipping through the cracks. So how do we fight that fear? Simple. We talk. Because number one, it's not something that does not concern you, because HIV does not discriminate. Whether you're rich, poor, lesbian, gay, bi, trans, male, female, whatever in between. Again, for me, I knew about this disease. Okay? I come home with pamphlets every December 1. But still, shit happens. It happens, right? We need to start talking, like we do right now. So if we start talking and start listening, and maybe, we'd start seeing the end of this epidemic. Thank you.